When building automated workflows, technical teams eventually hit a wall. You either outgrow the rigid limitations of no-code tools, or you lose engineering hours writing custom API connections from scratch. N8N is built to bridge that gap. It operates on a visual canvas where triggers, custom scripts, and native AI agents share the same environment. This diagram shows a production setup where a single form submission triggers a user creation in Google Workspace. The logic then branches out to provision specific Jira permissions, while simultaneously updating Slack profiles. This entire multi-app sequence executes autonomously as a single unified flow, rather than a series of disconnected steps. This hybrid architecture gives operations teams visual oversight, while allowing developers to inject custom JavaScript or Python exactly where it is required. Adopting the tool is only the first step. The more significant choice is how you actually deploy it. There are two distinct paths: the managed cloud service and the self-hosted community edition. Because the self-hosted version has a free license, teams often assume open source equates to zero financial cost. This oversight leads to budgets that ignore the actual operational burden. We are calculating the total cost of ownership by exposing the specific maintenance taxes required to keep a self-hosted instance running. The math begins with how N8N charges for automation compared to mainstream competitors. Most platforms use per-task billing. As shown on the left, you are charged for every single node a workflow crosses. If you build a complex sequence, your costs multiply with every step you add. N8N uses execution-based billing. On the right, an entire 50-step data path costs exactly 1 credit to run from start to finish. This math scales efficiently at volume. A 50-step workflow running 1,000 times a month consumes 1,000 executions. On a per-task model, that same volume would cost 50,000 tasks. There is a trade-off. Building these high-density paths required your team to be comfortable managing structured JSON data. However, this model rewards teams for building thorough, robust logic, instead of penalizing them for adding necessary steps. The managed cloud plans start at €24 a month, providing a baseline for teams that prioritize speed. This subscription fee essentially buys a fully managed environment where the vendor handles the underlying infrastructure. The outcome is immediate deployment and guaranteed uptime, without your team ever touching a command line. The first trade-off is financial scaling. If your monthly workflow runs scale past 10,000 executions, these managed costs become a material expense. The second trade-off is privacy. In a managed environment, your proprietary workflow data and API credentials reside on vendor-managed servers. For many, the cloud tier acts as a strategic buffer, protecting engineering hours by outsourcing server management to the vendor. Then there is the Community Edition, which is widely used because it has no license fees and no execution caps. But free software still carries a DevOps tax that must be paid to keep a production system reliable. When you add up VPS hosting, database management, and the 10 to 20 hours of monthly labor required for Docker updates and SSL renewals, you reach a sum of roughly €500 a month in real internal costs. You also own the incident response. If a server goes down or a database hangs, your internal team is solely responsible for troubleshooting and recovery. The benefit that justifies this labor is absolute data sovereignty. Self-hosting allows sensitive data and local AI models to remain entirely on infrastructure you control. Self-hosting is only a financial win if your team's maintenance time is valued lower than the managed plan's price. The ultimate ROI equation for N8N balances internal engineering capacity against your monthly execution volume. This decision framework maps your business profile to the correct deployment path. For non-technical operations teams or startups without DevOps headcount, the first path leads to the managed cloud. The time saved by avoiding server maintenance and manual updates effectively pays for the cloud subscription. For this group, paying for infrastructure is cheaper than spending their own engineering hours on maintenance. High-volume technical teams with existing server capacity should follow the second path towards self-hosting. Once you exceed 10,000 monthly executions, absorbing the DevOps tax becomes a scalable business decision that keeps your costs flat as you grow. The final path is for regulated enterprises in sectors like healthcare or fintech. For these teams, strict compliance mandates make absolute data sovereignty a requirement, not a preference. Avoid the trap of choosing the Community Edition just because it is labeled free. Calculate your internal hourly rate before committing to a self-hosted stack. Subscribe to Smart Picks Daily.